So I've been in crypto for nearly a decade now, and one of the most common questions I get whenever I meet people, whenever I talk to people new to crypto, or even actually who've been in crypto for a while, it's almost always a question of, when do you think the bull market will be over? Or should I be buying right now? Those, I think, are the most common questions that people have, and it also makes sense. I mean, most people are here to make money, and so it's quite important to know when it's going to end, this whole free money type of environment, or when it's basically too late to buy. And even though there's nobody out there who knows exactly when the top will be in, most people just lie about it. There is one thing that most people in crypto watch out for that doesn't require day-to-day monitoring like we're doing with our trades here. You can see one of our trades here on XRP is actually at almost $40,000 worth of a minus. And I think, here you can see Virtual's also at minus 10K or so. Soon enough though, we'll be flipping this. Just wait, you'll see. I've had trades at the minus hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's just a matter of courage, but we'll talk about that later. No, it's actually, well, I have a few charts. So one of the most important things I'll tell you right now is that Bitcoin always follows a certain pattern. It basically goes up for roughly 3 years before going down for about a year. Now, if we're taking a look, we've actually, from the bottom, basically gone up now for about 800 days, a bit over 2 years. And if we're taking a look at the previous, basically, bull cycle, so from lowest point to highest point, let's quickly see here. It was roughly 1,064 days or 150 weeks, so basically 3 years. Or the previous time, let's take this as the lowest point here to the highest point, roughly 850. But it just depends a little bit because actually, from the moment it started making higher highs, it was actually this bottom right here at roughly January of 2015 or so, from which it took about 1,078 days as well. Regardless, we basically see the top as a certain amount of days from the halving. In this case here, roughly 510 days after the halving, the top came in cycle number 2. In cycle number 3, roughly 550 days after the halving, the cycle came out to a top. And right now, after the halving, we are about, let's just say 280 days in, which is a lot, sure, but theoretically speaking, we could still have a few hundred days to go, perhaps even till the end of the year or so. And that's one of the funny things. When we saw Bitcoin go to $70,000 back in March, we all were stating, oh, it's actually way too early. Let me quickly put my thing up a little bit right there. It's way too early for us to go above an all-time high already. It's not usual because it never happened before. And many called it bad and said, no, this means the market will top out way sooner. And we all said, no, the market will basically correct itself again, even though we are a little bit above where we usually are at. We're not at the peak level yet based on yada yada. Well, I'll show you in just about 30 seconds here. Now, again, the market fell down for multiple months after the crazy boom in the start of 2024. It fell down for multiple months. A lot of people thought that it was over because, again, going from roughly March all the way to roughly October, it was mostly just down. Kind of like how right now, since the end of November, a lot of coins, or beginning of December, a lot of coins have also just been going sideways / down. It's basically like what we saw back then. But I still believe that soon enough, there'll be another leg up. And I mean, guys like Eric Trump are just adding to this with his bullish statements, just now being bullish on ETH. And I think very recently here also, yes, as you can see right here, saying it feels like a great time to enter Bitcoin. It's kind of crazy. Or taking a look at BlackRock's numbers, the BlackRock's ETF just bought the second largest amount of Ether on record just a few days ago, where again, the market is entirely red, it seems. They're buying, all right, but in the background. But no, the real chart that you need, I think, is the one right here. Now, before I show you that, I will quickly say, if you're looking for a platform to trade on right now, I've got a link down below to Bluefin. It's a platform where you can trade on from anywhere in the world, or WeX. I believe you can literally use WeX from any country out there, just any place in the world. Both are just nice platforms to trade on, where you got some pretty juicy bonuses for signing up as well. And again, if you're interested in trading, links are down below for those. And so to show you this chart, it's the one that Plan B has talked about thousands of times. And I basically hold this dear to my heart, even though there sometimes are small changes to it. And I basically just say to myself, you know what? I just don't listen to my emotions and sell when this starts flickering. What? Well, take a look. What 4 months, February to May, with plus 40% returns would look like. Note that each prior bull market, 2013, 2017, 2020, 21, had at least 4 months with plus 40% returns. Well, if we were to see something similar as the previous bull markets, you could see how crazy things could get for Bitcoin. And just looking at previous cycles, because again, this is a ideal scenario. It's not necessarily the reality. It just shows if we were to replicate what happened in these previous times with just multiple months of gains in a row, we'd basically be at some crazy Bitcoin level within a few months from now. Maybe even, I don't know which level we'll be at, maybe 300, 400,000, something like that. And again, when you're looking at the chart, just zoomed out a bit, does this look odd to you? Does this look unattainable? Not really to me. And the funny thing is, this was already charted in for many, many years, right? That Bitcoin will basically move in a certain way and will most likely keep repeating a similar sort of pattern for a while. And every single time there's critics. Every single time people say, no, it's not going to hold. No, this time will be different. But generally speaking, it just always has worked. And that's the more interesting thing, I guess, to take a look at here. It's a matter of, do you trust models because they're based on history, right? Well, my personal perspective is you can only plot out so much. And if you insert all your data, and you come to a pretty solid conclusion based on history with the idea that most announcements, most I guess things that have happened, the climate has only become better rather than worse, we can expect the exponential curve to continue on. I don't know, there's bias, but I think on a logarithmic curve like this, it's mostly just a matter of when and not really if, because I believe we will reach $1 million. I believe we will reach $10 million. It just might be a few weeks, a few months earlier, or a few weeks later, a few months later, just like how back now in March, we had some deviating price action for what was expected. And even right now, things are moving a little bit slower than we had expected, but ultimately, I don't think that's bad. I think it just gives people some more time to set themselves up right, but more importantly, it just gives people a little bit of room to doubt. And the nice thing when it comes to our cryptocurrencies is that the more doubt you have, in general, so not just you as a person, but the people have, the slower the market moves, right? And so the more doubt we have, the slower it moves, the more doubt that people have. It's like a little death loop, a death circle. But I think if we take a proper look at it, that's also where then most opportunities should lie. Let's just say, or I should say, let's assume that for an asset class we are generally speaking excited for, bullish on, the lower the price goes, the better it is for us. Most mindsets, I guess, or most people, when they think about markets, they think, oh, when things go up, that's better. Theoretically speaking, if you are eternally or for a longer term excited about an asset class, it is more beneficial for you when the prices go down. It's hard to really accept that fact, but most solid investors, most intelligent investors, it's specifically a book, and they also have it in the silver lining here, get more excited when prices come down because it gets less risky rather than more risky. So if we assume that we generally speaking expect prices to go up, and again, it's just a matter of when, not an if, we should embrace the dips as long as, again, we basically trust this curve, which in my case, I do. Now, once more, the exact timing of it is not too sure, but I still kind of believe that this will mostly result into where Bitcoin is headed towards. Maybe some slight adjustments are necessary. He's changed the model multiple times throughout time. But in this case right now, if you were to ask around, most people say that right now is a calm time for Bitcoin. There's no reason to bid. Bidding in this case here, meaning you put some orders in to basically buy it, and they're quite skeptical. But again, that's mostly because they think the really bullish announcements are gone. There's no reason to buy it anymore. But when you start looking back at it, very often there have been no real good reasons for the market to move up, and it did. And just a few days ago, a lot of people said, oh, panic, sell everything. And a day afterwards, or even hours afterwards, coins like XRP, etc., were up 50% or so within like a few hours. And that comes my point. Most people have no idea what they're talking about. They just say, hey, things go down, I'm bearish. Things go up, I'm bullish, which is, theoretically speaking, the exact opposite of what you should be doing in the market. So as prices now are coming down lower, you should get more excited rather than the opposite. Plan B says noise, current between 92.5 to 107.5K trading range. Signal, most people think it's not possible for Bitcoin to have 40% plus monthly returns again. Like, for example, going for Bitcoin going from 100 to 140,000. However, the data says 2013, 4 months of 40% plus. The red dots with an RSI above 80. RSI basically showcases the relative strength index, so how much a asset, in this case here Bitcoin, is overbought or oversold. In 2017, we had this for 5 times. with 40% plus gains. In 2021, we also had 4 times with 40% average, I guess. And apparently we already had a plus 37%, so slightly lower, but let's just count it, last November. So even though it's not, the greatest, we really haven't seen the craziest of euphoria just quite yet. And I often like to bring up this bull market spotter chart. When things get super, super crazy, here's what you should watch out for. 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓 start exiting. Well, this run on so many fronts is so different than previous ones because of pump fun. I wonder if we should really see it all differently, because when you start to look at a lot of these fundamental pieces, like for example, Phantom Wallet being in the top 10, well, there was a massive meme coin wave where Phantom was already in the top 10 when the TikTok hype came, or now because of Trump. But then again, when we're taking a look at top altcoins, Ethereum hasn't even gone to an all-time high yet, and Bitcoin's dominance really hasn't taken any crush at all. But then again, VC coins and all these insiders basically. Well, do we now switch over the VC coins and insiders to, BlackRock buyers, World Liberty 5 buyers, strategy buyers who are buying into MicroStrategy stock? Has the landscape just changed and we should be watching out for those? Because from BlackRock's fund and all the ETFs, they're still continuing to buy. Is that not what we say within these big funds and insiders? Remember, guys, this is the first cycle, actually, the first year and a month that we've had Bitcoin ETFs, right? I believe they started January 10th or so, 2024, if my memory serves me right. So it's actually not been that long, but people seem to think that, we can predict everything based on previous time. No, there's a lot of hints. A lot of things repeat themselves, but mostly in the broader lines. For example, the fact that mostly when people get most afraid, like we're seeing right now, that's where the best of opportunities lies. And mostly that when there's talk of eternal greatness is when you should get a little bit more afraid. We saw some euphoria moments, like for example, when Trump's coin came. I told you guys, a person really close to me said that Trump coin will most likely overtake Bitcoin. And I texted my friend, let's sell everything. And in hindsight, as if we did, because Bitcoin hit an all-time high that day, it would have actually been a really good choice. But again, something like that has never really happened before, because never in the history has the president of the United States launched a coin. And so it's quite hard to know exactly how to react to that. There have been many people who say, no, we got to short altcoins to zero right now, the market is over. But there comes the funny thing, right? You can make money on the upside for these coins. You can make money on the downside. Hey, if you're a trader, like I said, links are down below. If you want to counter trade me and you think you can do better, go ahead and do it. I'd say the funniest thing in this market is I am too certain that up and up and up is the only way we're going. But then in the short term, in the meantime, it might be a very wobbly story. So the only thing I've got to do is just hold on for dear freaking life, not panic as much and not doubt my theory, and I'll be all right. The only way in which my journey can go wrong, I suppose, is if I start giving up and sell at a very unfortunate time, like a bottom, for example. I know that would be one of the things I would not forgive myself for really quickly. I mean, there's obviously a matter of if prices go higher, start selling more and just securing the profit, sure. But that's obviously different if you're selling at a loss or after a minus 40 or something like that move. And in this case here, I'm just thinking, you know what? Most likely the market's not over yet with the craziest of gains. Yes, there's many signs that we have topped out, like the whole Trump situation, etc. But I'm still thinking, mostly from the angle that we've really just not seen that massive move yet. And I mean, just remember, we just now got ourselves a crypto tsar over in the US saying that NFTs and meme coins are collectibles, not securities, and they're just kind of going off of that road. With Trump today announcing they're also going to go for a freaking Bitcoin Plus ETF and some other things. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think we're just overreacting. On the short term, still might be wobbly, but over a longer term, I don't think the fundamentals have changed. I think people have just gotten weaker because the pump fun era and I guess Trump now launching his meme coin made people think that everything is vaporware and that everything is now only going to start going down. But in reality, I don't think the craziest times of the run, of the season are upon us yet. Because if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you most likely middle towards the end of 2025 is where we'll top out at. And in the meantime, everything can still be down. Remember, a real alt season is a very, very short amount of time. For the most part, it's just slow up. And every single season, it's a lot of burning. It's a lot of hatefulness. It's a lot of sadness when you watch it from a day to day. But when you zoom out and really start looking at it in the grander picture, right? For example, this 2021 run. You could say that it started in December of 2018, right? But if I'd ask you for example, during the COVID situation, right? If I'd ask you, are you in a bull or bear market? Well, Bitcoin just went from 13,000 to 3. So you would have definitely said, this is bear market. We're going to go to 0. A lot of people thought that. But then it went from $3,000 to $70,000 a little bit afterwards. But even within that bull market, you can see prices came back down roughly 20% here, for example, with Bitcoin, going from $12,000 all the way towards like $9,000. And in the midst here, there have also, if you just kind of zoom in a little bit, been multiple weeks of just mostly sideways with a downward bias. Here you can see we touched $12,000 on the week of the 27th of July. And then we only crossed that really the 19th of October. So you can see it took a few months, let's just say 3 months or so, to basically cross that level even back then. And even here, right, earlier in the season, it took us from the 11th of March all the way towards the 4th of November really to continue on with the rally. So all I can say about that is have some patience. Not financial advice, just my thoughts, but yeah, that's about it. If you want to make sure you're always notified whenever something crazy happens, make sure you put that notification bell on. But I'd say that the only chart you really need is just the Bitcoin chart or any chart really that shows the stock to flow model, whatever, and zoom out. That's all you need. That's all you got to remember. The rest is all just blah, 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 blah. Happy trading.